This week in CIST 1510, we're going to look at Chapter 10. We're creating interactivity with CSS and JavaScript. After we get through the presentation, we will then go through the lab assignment you will have this week in MindTap. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the CSS transform property, create animations with CSS keyframes. Then we'll go into JavaScript. So you will understand JavaScript. We'll describe JavaScript code, look at the script element, and also understand where JavaScript code may be written. You will then create an external JavaScript file, create JavaScript functions, and look at events and on-click event handler. Most modern websites will include some form of interactivity. This is going to be websites that are going to integrate within using CSS and JavaScript, which JavaScript is a web programming language and is used to enhance a website and to create the interactivity. Now you can also use CSS to create interactivity. It began as a simple way to add color and design to a web page, but now it can be used to change the color of elements. It can change the appearance of an element, move elements on a web page. So you can use the transform property. This allows you to rotate, scale, skew, or translate a block element. Okay, so we're going to look at table, you can look at table 10-1 for methods that can be used within the transform property as well. Okay, so this is an example of using the CSS to create interactivity. So you can see some of the images that can be changed when you mouse over these. You can also use it to scale, rotate, skew, as well as far as your images. Now JavaScript, that's a scripting language. It's a client-side scripting language, so it's going to reside within your browser. Provides various types of functionality to the web page. So it allows the web page to interact with the user. Now web developers will use this to control web pages. For example, a JavaScript slideshow can be added to your site. Now you may also see many websites, especially the mobile websites, are going to have a icon. It's going to be called the hamburger icon, and that's going to be used for the menu. That's going to consist of 3 horizontal lines, and it's going to use JavaScript to display the menu and allow the users to select an option. See an example of the hamburger icon here in the W3 Schools screenshot. Okay, so this would be your menu. It's a hamburger menu. Now, if we're going to use JavaScript effectively, we should be familiar with our terminology. So we start off with a statement. That's a line of programming instructions to be executed by the client, or which is the browser. The object is the programming code or data that can be treated as its own entity. Properties are the attributes that describes an object's characteristics. And then methods are actions that an object can perform. Some other terminology includes the argument. That's a value given to the method. The function is a set of JavaScript statements that perform a specific task. Variable is a container that holds a value. An event handler is used by JavaScript to associate the action with a function. And when we write JavaScript code, we do have some syntax rules that we need to follow. One to remember is JavaScript is case sensitive. Also, you want one-line comments and multi-line comments. You will write them in this way. You see a single line will start with 2 dashes, 2 slashes, and then our multi-line comment. Semicolons are going to be used to end JavaScript statements. So I recommend that you always write a comment for your JavaScript to describe the events that were happening. Now, a couple places you can write JavaScript is it can be written as an HTML page or a separate JavaScript file with a file name extension of a .js. Now, when you write it as within the HTML page, you may put the code in the head element or the body element. You can put it either place. But when you create an external JS file, the script element is going to be placed in the head element of the HTML file. And it's going to specify where the external JS file is as the file source. As we see the examples, we have a script tag and then a link to the JavaScript file. Okay. Very similar to how do you link in the CSS files, except for this case, we're going to start it with the script tag. DOM models or DOM methods. DOM is going to stand for Document Object Model, which every element on the HTML page is an object. So it's going to consist of all the HTML elements, attributes, text, and those are going to be one item on the page. So we start off, we see the DOM methods here. We've got our document, our head, our HTML. It's going to be separated into our head and body. Then the items that go in the heading section and the items that goes in the body section. Now, some methods that we can use is the get elements by class name. What that does, that returns all the HTML elements within a specified class name. The get elements by name method will return all HTML elements with a specified name value attribute. Get elements by tag name will return all HTML elements with a specified tag name. The query selector returns the first HTML element with the specified CSS selector. And the query selector all will return a list of HTML elements with the specified CSS selector.